You've sat there, staring at the screen, waiting for a message. She's online but not replying. And then the questions start. Did I say something wrong? Did I text too much? Or not enough? Am I losing my value just because I care? This isn't just your story. This is the trap most modern men fall into. You think texting more shows love. You think replying fast means you're thoughtful. But to women, it often signals something else, a lack of self-control. Epictetus once said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." A woman doesn't need you to explain who you are. She needs to feel that you are not easily shaken. And texting is exactly where most men reveal their weakness. Too predictable, too available, too eager to please. From the very first line, you give away the one thing you should hold on to, your masculine gravity. In this video, I'm not giving you tactics, I'm giving you principles. 3 truths, not to manipulate women, but to become a man who never needs to chase. And the first question is this: if one message can make her lose interest, what happens if you send nothing at all? 1. If you're always available, you've already lost. Have you seen this before? He stares at his phone. The screen lights up. A message arrives. She asks, "What are you doing?" He types, deletes, types again. His heart races, because it's not just about the reply. It's about the fear. If I don't respond fast enough, she'll forget me. So he sends a message, an innocent text, just to stay connected. But what he doesn't know is this: every time he replies too fast, he gives away a piece of his gravity. In this modern world, where everyone's always online, the one who doesn't rush is the one who holds power. She doesn't need your message. She needs to feel that you're not driven by fragile emotion. You think being available means being kind, but often available just means, "I'm idle, waiting for you." The more accessible you are, the less you're desired. That's not opinion. That's psychology. Women aren't drawn to convenience, they're drawn to mystery, to gaps that make them wonder. Imagine. Feel a sense of absence. Now picture the same scene, but different. This time she texts, "What are you doing?" You see it. You read it. You don't reply. Not because you're playing games, but because you're living. You're working, training, focused on your goals. 3 hours later, you send one line. No apology, no explanation. Just wrap something important. You good? That message, short, simple, but it lands heavy because it's not about the words. It says something deeper. I have direction. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." If her response determines your worth, you've already lost your center. You're no longer the signal. You've become the receiver. Always being ready doesn't make you more lovable. It makes you predictable. And a predictable man is a replaceable man. She didn't leave because you didn't try. She left because there was nothing left to discover. Want to keep her? Don't pull her toward you. Create space that she wants to fill, not with words, with silence, not with images, with steady, grounded energy. She looks at her phone. No new messages. She refreshes. Still nothing. In her head, it's not just about you anymore. It's the question, why hasn't he texted yet? And in that moment, you're not present, but you are. You don't speak, but you're on her mind. And then you send one message. She opens it like it's a sealed envelope. The feeling doesn't come from your words. It comes from the rhythm you created. Try it once. Next time she texts, don't reply for 6 hours. Not as a tactic, but to let her feel something. You don't live inside messages. You live in the real world. If you do this, you'll notice a shift. She initiates more, respects your space more, and most of all, you begin to respect yourself more. Don't be the man who's always there. Be the man whose presence matters. And the real question is, if silence can make her miss you, what could happen when you speak the right words at the right moment? Because sometimes it's not the words, not the emojis, it's the space that she remembers most. Next up, words are tools, But something sharper exists, invisible, yet it creates the deepest impact. Silence, a weapon few dare to hold. 2. Words are tools, but silence is a weapon. You've said a lot before, and nothing changed, right? She grew distant. You texted, explained, reassured. You opened up. You poured everything out. And the only response you got was a single period, a scene, or worse, a silence you couldn't bear, because you picked the wrong tool. You chose words, when the only thing that carried weight for her was silence. You thought speaking gave you control, but the more you spoke, the more you surrendered your quiet power. Words are tools, but silence is a weapon. Most men were never taught how to hold their words, so they speak too soon, too much, before they even understand themselves. Epictetus once wrote, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. If you want to be a man who stays calm, who doesn't get rattled, start by learning how to stay silent when others expect you to react." You and her argue, not loud, but tense. You've got 100 things to say, but this time, you say nothing. Not because you lost, but because you chose not to join a weak emotional dance. You look her in the eye and let the silence do the work. Silence is an emptiness. Silence is presence under pressure. She can feel you're there, not through words, but through energy. The more you talk, the less people listen. Hold back at the right moment, and they start guessing. They start feeling. They start asking, what is he thinking? Is he hurt? Or does he no longer care? And those questions connect her to you far more than any sentence ever could. Words are fire, but silence is wind. Fire flares, then burns out. But wind, invisible, makes people shift in its direction. Next time you feel the urge to text in a storm of emotion, don't. Open a draft. Type it all out. But don't hit send. Then look at the blank space. Ask yourself, am I reaching out to connect or just afraid to lose? If it's fear, choose silence. A man with depth doesn't need to shout. He just needs to know when to hold his energy. Because when you don't text, she has to live with the silence. And if your inner presence is strong enough, that silence will echo louder than any word you've ever said. She doesn't need a quick reply. She needs to know you're strong enough not to answer until you're truly ready. No one desires someone who's always available. Everything meaningful requires waiting. She wants to feel that you're as hard to grasp as silence. But when you show up, you carry the weight of thunder. You look at her last message. It's been 3 hours. You haven't replied. You took a walk, lifted weights, wrote in your journal, not to escape, but to restore order inside. And when you text her back, you don't write a novel. You send one short sentence. She reads it, then reads it again. Not because of the words, but because the man who sent it has changed. Try this once. Delay your reply for 24 hours. Not because you're busy, but because you're living right, so that every word you use carries weight. No one remembers the man who talked too much. People remember the one who stayed silent, and yet became unforgettable. And here's the real question. If silence can make her think of you more, what happens when you learn to stir emotion without needing to prove yourself? 3. Don't explain, evoke. Have you ever felt that the more you try to explain, the worse things get? She grows distant. You panic. You open up. You spill everything. How you've changed, what you now understand, where you believe you were right. But in return, silence, or worse, a forced smile, a look of pity. Like you're the lost one, desperate for a map no one asked you to bring. Because you're doing the one thing a woman never truly needs. You're proving yourself. Women don't need proof that you're good. They need to feel something when they think about you. And feelings don't come from words. They come from the echo of presence. You don't need to say you're strong. You need to stand there, quiet, unshakable. You don't need to write an essay on emotions. You just need to let your eyes say what words can't touch. You're typing a long message. Your thumb hovers, You pause. You ask yourself, am I sending this because I have something to say or because I'm afraid to lose her? You delete it, not out of pride, but because you finally understand what's truly valuable doesn't need convincing. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." She doesn't need you to say you're deep. She needs to feel that you've been through something and no longer need to explain it. Attraction doesn't come from logic. It comes from a resonance you can't rehearse. The more you try to explain yourself, the more you trap yourself in definition. She doesn't want to understand you easily. She wants to wonder what she's missing. Every time you try to prove something, you're really saying, "I'm not enough. I need to be accepted. I'll lose her if I don't act now." And nothing kills attraction faster than that. A man with inner strength doesn't need to be believed. He just needs to know who he is and stand there like a forest that needs no signpost. Next time you want to send something poetic, stop, open your front camera, look yourself in the eye, and ask, am I speaking to connect or to be accepted? If it's the latter, don't hit send. Remember, emotion doesn't come from length, it comes from depth. And evoking means making her think about you when you're not around. To wonder, why doesn't he need to explain? What is he thinking? Does he still care? You don't leave an answer, you leave a question. And that keeps you in her mind longer than any confession ever could. You post a photo, no caption, no hidden metaphor, just your eyes, still, steady, unhidden. And she pauses, looks again. Not because it's a good photo, but because it makes her feel the absence of something she can't quite name. You want to be magnetic? Don't describe the fire. Make her feel the heat without knowing where it came from. Let your silence lead her emotions. Off course. And then there's one last thing. You can be silent. You can evoke. But if you never close it, clean, precise, it all fades into ambiguity. Because ending isn't retreat, it's the final period, placed just right, so everything else echoes louder. You've heard the 3 secrets. You've seen how women respond, not to words, but to energy. You've understood, presence doesn't mean showing up often. It means leaving an echo when you're not around. Now you might be asking yourself, what should I do with what I just heard? The answer is, don't do anything. Yet, just sit with this feeling for a little longer. The feeling that, maybe for the first time, you don't need to react right away. Epictetus once wrote, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. You don't need to be understood immediately. You just need to be still enough not to need it." In a world that rushes, the man who steps back is the one who makes others stop and think. Start with the smallest shifts. Delay your reply. Post nothing for 24 hours. Don't check who saw your story. Don't show up just to be seen. Just live. Live fully. Not to prove, not to be noticed, but to restore order within. For the next 48 hours, don't text first, not as a game, but to listen to yourself, to see whether you still need her validation, or if you're starting to feel whole without outside confirmation. If after 48 hours you feel calmer, that's the first sign of inner power. If you feel restless, uneasy, that's a signal too. A signal that you're living from reaction, not from alignment. You're sitting in a cafe, no texts, no calls. You hold your phone, but don't unlock it because you know what you're building isn't inside that screen. It's in the way you choose to be present with yourself. You don't need someone to complete you. You just need a version of you. Solid, deep, still. So when others come near, they feel the shift. You used to live to be chosen. Now it's time to become the one no one forgets. Not because of what you say, not because of how you look, but because your stillness makes them uneasy when you're not around. After this video, write down one thing you usually do to get attention and delete it. Delete it from your story, from your texts, from your habits. Just once, to see for yourself. You are still you, even when you're not trying to be seen. And if you're sitting alone right now, quietly watching this video and wondering, Am I enough yet? Then remember, you already are. You just need to stop carrying your energy like it's asking for approval. If this video made you see things differently, don't share it just yet. Don't comment out of habit. Save it. Watch it again. Right when you're about to send a text you probably shouldn't. Or share the link with another man, with no explanation. Let him feel what you just felt. Because leaders don't speak loudly. Leaders create silence. And maybe, when you no longer need the words, you'll realize what you touched wasn't emotion, it was discipline. This is a full stop, but it's not the end. It's the still point, where everything else begins to rise.